Hello. We are going to ask the hardest questions in all the universe. Let's get started. When I was born, I knew exactly who I was and why I was here. By my mother's account and the location, I knew I was 5 years old on the earth. This is human years. In my mind, I really wasn't thinking of my age at the age of 5. It wasn't until later on, looking back at the years of when I had certain thoughts, that I realized how old I was. I know I was 5 because I had not started school yet, and I know the exact location. I do have a location of an entrance point to the dome. This is somewhere in the state of Tennessee. There is an entrance point to the dome. And at the age of 5, by the age of 5, I began to question who I was. And I remember very, very clearly the very questions that haunted my mind and came out of my mind and my mouth constantly. I would sit under a certain tree looking up. This tree had a certain type of fruit. This tree was the exact point I remember entering the earth. And then I remember going into the womb. And I remember the thoughts I had and the voices I heard, the people, before I was born. I remember using my mind to communicate and make an attempt to communicate to people that I do speak English and I understand them. And by the time I was born, I wanted to tell my mother that I understood English, but however my mouth would not open. This is because I was in infant form. How this sounds very untrue and unbelievable, but I am giving you the facts for a reason. By the age of 5, I began to question my identity. And these are the exact questions I had. Here they go, word for word. I used to be someone else. I'm somebody else. I was somebody else. Why am I here again? Why am I here again? These questions continued in my mind over and over and over. I was someone else? Why am I here again? I kept looking up to the sky as if I was entrapped inside of a box or something. It was a very strange sky to me. I couldn't see too far, but I knew there were supposed to be things there. I will not mention to you all the paranormal physical things that happened, but there were paranormal things that were very comfortable to me. But eventually these things began to erase. My nature as a child was an innocent nature. It is the data and the code by which everyone who are born in the world able to ask. And those questions are, why am I here? Who am I? And some of us will ask, was I someone else? I was someone else. Some people actually say the answer, give the answer. I was here before. I was someone else. Why am I here again? Or I am here again. These are very hard questions that need to be addressed, because if we can't get hard, clear, physical evidence of the absolute truth, then we will constantly ask these questions. And even if we find out exactly how the world functions and how things are done, we will never get closure because those questions are left open. And if you have come into the earth and you have not realized yet the very nature of man, for obvious reasons that I will explain a little later. The nature of man is to provide you information which are basically fabrications of reality. It doesn't matter what people say to us. What matters is when you say something to me and it doesn't match up to my everyday living, I can either accept your words as reality or face the reality that you are basically deceiving me. There is a reason why we are under deception. In basic form, the earth is full of literal poison which is generated to stimulate death. The poison comes in various forms, in our food, our air, and our water. Of course, everyone knows this. It's just people are not willing to face these facts. We know that the cancer comes from something. And what is the absolute hard physical evidence? If you have internal cancer, how does this come about? Is it magical and comes through a foo-foo dust, which is invisible? No, there are absolute physical things which happen. And if you get experience in the life of the walk of life on the planet Earth, and you grow up as an adult, you begin to understand exactly how and why. And some people still get the mindset of ignoring the absolute physical clear evidence that man controls their own destiny by injecting the world with various types of mental and biological poisons, and also electronical, which calibrates and affects our spirit. It is often misunderstood that the spirit is something which is not physical. This is also a lie. Everything that is created and made, including God, the ether, or whatever you want to say, including evolution, and they who do not believe, all things are absolutely, unequivocally physical. The hardest questions in the world. Why am I here? Was I here before? What is my purpose in life? Now, believe it or not, all of those questions that I've just asked, I've gotten the 100% physical, absolute, clear evidence of it. Even the question of why the earth is the way it is, why is there good and evil, who is God, and why are there lies, and why is there suffering here and death, all of those questions were answered me physically, in reality. But it wasn't until the time I had to unlearn the things by which I were taught from the age of 5 going up. Remember, the school system pretty much gets you at the age of 5, and for some children it's the age of 4. But this is when they begin to put you into preschool, into deprogram the things by which you know by nature. We can go into detail about that in other dialogues, but generally speaking, everyone knows this is true. You go to school and you learn the system. This is a form of hypnotism and brainwashing. So let's address the hardest questions in the world. Why am I here? The answer to that question is, you are here as entertainment to produce a mindset which is based on various types of negative emotions. Those negative emotions are generated through the thought process of the human brain, which houses memory that we call the mind. There is on-the-fly thinking, which is a random access memory, which is generated through the process of the left and right hemispheres of your brain, and also the pineal gland, which can hyper-accelerate not only your brain on both hemispheres, but also your biological body through adrenaline and various types of fluids which are inside of the human body. This pineal gland is able also to calibrate literal static electricity through the hairs and follicles of your body, all over your body. This is why you have hairs all over your body. But don't worry, the core of your hair is still under your skin, whether you shave or not. These are fiber optics for the human body, for them to get, quote unquote, them to get, and when I say them, I'm talking about humans which live outside of the planet Earth, and also for the machine which is vexed and matrixed inside of the fourth dimension. That matrix is an absolute physical presence which has an intelligence. But in general, the human body generates electricity through the brain and is calibrated by memory. There are two types of memory. There is the memory which stores everything and records everything with or without your knowledge. And then there's the cognitive memory of your conscious mind when you purposely think about things. There is a automated memory and a purpose memory. But in general, the reason why you are here is to generate you as a battery for energy. Well, how is this possible? Well, ever since the beginning of the earth, there has been plasma energy surrounding you, with or without your knowledge. This plasma energy is generated by various forms. One is done through the water. The fluorinated water contains electrodes and electrolytes. You may even see this in the stores where they say certain foods are full of electrolytes. This is real, and this is absolutely electricity in the form of acids and various types of food. It conducts a real seen and felt voltage which is generated by the brain, the spinal cord, the nervous system throughout the circulatory system of the human anatomy and various animals and creatures. But we want to focus primarily on humans. The reason why this is possible is there is a direct connection to your body with or without your knowledge through the atmosphere. Well, how is this possible? In general, you're breathing in electronic substances through the form of chemtrails. There is a dusting all around the world. It looks like fog. It's pretty much white. These are the results of cloud seeding, or the generation of chemtrails by making clouds, and this falls down to the earth. The reason why it falls down is because of the pressure of the dome which encloses the earth, and inside of this dome are chemicals. You may have heard of a man by the name of Nikola Tesla. Nicholas Tesla. You know who I'm talking about. And you may have heard about plasma energy. The reason why you are a battery is because your governments around the entire world, all governments, no matter what your nationality or race is, spray the air, the atmosphere, with these chemicals which produce clouds. And the dusting is constant inside your body. All sorts of chemicals which provide a direct or indirect connection. When you're walking on the earth, you are grounded. This grounding is a part of electricity. It's a pooling type of current. And then when the sun is calibrated over the dome, there is the positive energy. This positive energy produces an electronic static, and this can be sometimes felt when you go to grab something which is metallic, and you can feel an electrical shock in your fingertips. The human body carries uncharted amount of electricity in it. And generally speaking, it could be 3 to 6 volts. And this is enough to light a light bulb. But in general speaking, the human body generates electricity depending on your anatomy. Some people generate enough electricity that if you shake their hands, you will feel a literal current, a volt of energy and a shock, and you are forced to remove your hand. This happens sometimes through when a person walks across a carpet and their body picks up different types of atoms and molecules and an electrical charge. This is a no-brainer. We know this from personal experience. It cannot be denied. However, it may be denied because of the nature of man. But the reason why you are here is because you are made as a battery to generate emotional input-output. But why? Well, I told you how. Let's stop. The reason why you don't know a lot of things about the Bible, God, and the world, and all those questions about evolution is because they left out the most important equation. They left out how it is all done. Yes, this is deliberate against your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. They didn't tell you how they did it. This is how they can bamboozle and continue the illusion of deception. If you don't know how things are done, you will always be misled and forced to understand things from the perspective by which they have been displayed unto you. This perspective is usually done through dialogue, written text, or animation, through televised animation such as the television and radio. These are not including the other 3 senses, which is taste, touch, and smell. We have sight, we have hearing, but when you eliminate the other 3, you have basically limited yourself to truly understand how things operate and work. So the reason why you are here, absolutely, is because you are made to be energy, to feed a system that uses your body as electricity to feed other entities which are also human who calibrate on a higher frequency. This, you are made as entertainment, just like a game or video game. Believe it or not, this is the reason why you exist on the earth. Can you handle the truth? This is the Matrix. And now, let's focus on some reasons and things that will prove how. Well, the first thing is the food. The food has electricity. The promotion here is to consume chocolate and sugar. What is in chocolate and sugar? Chocolate basically is a great conductor of electricity. There is a great amount of iron, literal iron, in food. They even want you to take iron pills, and when you do this, you get sick, don't you? Your stomach sometimes, and you become constipated. Iron can be accepted by the brain, but it basically jams the true flow of your mindset. It is a conductor of electricity, but it's sporadic, just like aluminum, and it jams the body. But when the human brain, through the pineal gland, calibrates, when you drink certain fluids such as soda, and orange juice, which is high in acids. This is equivalent to like vinegar. Vinegar and acids such as lemon juice and orange juice and sodas can generate enough electricity to electrocute someone to death. Yes, it sounds like science fiction, but unless you understand the science, this will seem like a made-up story. But in general, the pineal gland calibrates and causes the electricity in your body to fluctuate and build up through the transformer of your nervous system, through your spinal cord, generated through the pumping of the blood and the valves in your body. This is negative and positive energy, and you can conduct electricity and substantiate as a spirit housed inside of a biological element. A spirit can also live inside of a mechanical object such as a computer. We can go into detail about that on another dialogue. But in general, the reason why you are here is to generate emotions, just like the movie, sort of like the movie Monsters Incorporated. There is a lot of truth to this thing because emotions, this is the evident, hard, physical, clear evidence. No one can escape that we are full of emotion. And it seems like the more you can shock the mind, the better. And the more dynamic and traumatic events that are produced on great levels, that some things in the past were not accepted, but now they are. Blood and gore and murders and all sorts of terrifying events and imaginations. They don't care what you believe. All they care about, quote unquote, they, and when I say they, I'm talking about humans who live outside of the dome. They and also humans who live inside of the dome. There is an elite group of humans who want you to be like this, and they control the food, the air, and the water. They are trillionaires. We don't need to mention any names. We want to stay pretty much a neutral mindset and not become a target. So it be wise that you don't mention these families, or you can become a victim of their wrath and of their wrath. But in general, you are created here and brought here. The reason why you're here is to produce you as energy, and you are used as energy to produce emotions, and this is through your emotions. And you are physical, but you also have a mind, and your mind is also physical. So the spirit is also physical. It's not just something you can't feel or see. Although we are emotional, the reason why you are here is to produce you as a battery and to give you emotions that feed the plasma energy through the dome. That plasma energy has a direct connection. The electricity goes through the satellite dishes and high towers, and then in elevated and heightened dynamic moments of electrical storms, this energy, you can see it through electrical storms, and you know that the highest object is hit with a volt of electricity. And these are what we call lightning, and this is an energy. We are feeding a machine, and also we are feeding people who are connected to that machine on the opposite side of the earth. Believe it or not, you are in the real matrix. The only thing is that your mind has been programmed to focus on pictures, dialogues, artifacts, television, radio, and animation. And you have forgotten to look at your actual physical body and what's surrounding you. Easy things to see with your own two eyes. It is far easier to explain how things are in relation to God and the world than to by actually seeing it up close in clear evidence, than to say how it is by pictures, illustrations, which are elusive. We will get into that a little later. The reason why you are here is because you are made to generate entertainment for another source. You are purposed here to generate emotions, and the predominant emotions that are necessary for this substantiated world has been calibrated in a bad way. They want you to generate bad emotions as compared to good emotions. This is done on purpose. The reason why you are here is to be used as a battery and to generate a mindset which generates electricity to feed a system which is mechanical and electronical. The system is the matrix of the earth, and the reason why it works is because there is chemicals in your water, fluoride, and this has a current of electricity, and this is in your body, and there's all sorts of types of elements in our body, and fluids and liquids that generate electricity, iron. Now, when you take radio waves with satellite dishes around the world and they project through your body to a transformer by the power of transformers, which are ran by various ways through dams and electricity, and they have transformers that store capacitors that store energy, and when they hyper accelerate these transformers through our bodies, we are charged with or without our knowledge. They're even able to see images of our skeletal and even of our brains through infrared and also through heat vision, and they calibrate between 2 points, and these machines reflect off of the dome and provide images all over the world, even through the earth, down to the dome. This may be unbelievable, but the basically is using like a sonar, and when the sound vibrates and bounces, it produces a picture, an image. And there's barium in your blood and my blood, and they can see in your skeleton. Barium has to be used to x-ray the inside of your body under CAT scans. Barium is a liquid that you swallow for them to see certain things inside of the body that they're not able to see just through general x-raying. It is a radio frequency, and it's a concentrated energy. But generally speaking, the reason why you are here is for that purpose. This is why you were made. Believe it or not. This may depress you, but I want to tell you that at the end of my dialogue, or somewhere in my dialogue, I will give you good news. But it will be the truth, not this deception, because the world is told good news and they are still waiting for the second coming of their God. The atheist is looking for the physical evidence, yet everything is hidden in clear sight. I wonder if you really understand what I'm talking about. Is this the answer? Why I'm here? I'm here. Well, how did I get here? This is another good question. How did you get here? I mean, I know I was born with my mom and my dad, but how did they get here? Good question. How did your mom and dad get here? And even if they got here, who put them here? This also is a good question. Have you ever understood why you never get the answer? There is no verbal answer. Partly because your communication has been cut off, and you're not able to communicate with outer resources which can tell you the answer and give you the answer. Believe it or not, you were born with the answer, but immediately they begin to record over the information that you were born with by nature. Some of us retain our memory. I happen to be one of those people that do. And I'm able to see the matrix physically, constantly. I have to block it out sometimes, but I can see atoms and the ether literally with my eyes. My two eyes could not be there, and I still see it. Why? Because the brain has sight. There is a third eye literally inside of your brain they call the pineal gland, which provides sight. This is how you dream dreams with your eyes closed, because your brain understands this radio frequency as sight. This can come in the form of three-dimensional, but when you start to add taste, touch, and smell, it can be rather confusing for the brain. But in general speaking, the reason why you are here is to generate electricity through the mindset of negative emotions, or should I say more accurately, bad emotions. Because remember, this is almost like Bizarro World. Bizarro was a superhero that looked a lot like Superman, but he was metallic, and his world was the complete opposite of Superman. And basically, when we're talking about negative things, they are really positive. And when you're talking about positive things, when they're really negative, just things are flipped around to confuse you on purpose. But basically, your purpose and reason to be here is to generate bad emotions. Why bad and not good? Very good questions. Let's ask the good questions. So let's address, where did my mom come from? And whoever created them, where did that person come from? And then the person, and if that person was here, who created that person? And then you have the question which goes into infinity. But I want to give you the answer right now. You come from the absolute imagination of the absolute God. This is not the same God that spoke and said, "Let there be light." Because in reality, we don't really know this. We just believe this. We haven't been given hard, clear physical evidence of this. We just have evidence that we do exist and that some intelligent life form created us. But if you're a person who is an evolutionist and don't believe in that, and you believe in the Big Bang Theory, you're going to have issues with this. Even these people have questions. They are also taught lies. Both sides are lied to. The believers who believe in God are lied to. The people who believe in evolution are constantly lied to. The entirety of the earth is built and fabricated upon lies. It is no wonder how all of us, it is no wonder why all of us are full of illusions. It is our nature, but not originally. And I will prove this. I will explain it, and you can find this out. But let's address the question, where did you come from? And where did that entity come from? And if God existed, who created God? These are very good questions. Why don't they ever answer your questions? Why won't people really find the answers? Why is it so evasive? I wonder. So I'm going to give you the answer. You came out, you are inside, you and all things are inside of the mind of God, the absolute God. This absolute God may be good and evil simultaneously, but you're literally in the left and right hemisphere of the absolute God. How is this possible? Because the controller mindset, when the controller thinks about things, it becomes a living force physically, and it calibrates on 5 dimensions. We have already named a few in the past, but let's give a sort of quick explanation. You are generated through code. This is a nano code. It is unchangeable. You are generated through the mind of God. You exist literally inside of the mind of God. Does this blow your mind? Is it hard to understand? Of course it is, but it's the truth. Let's make a comparison. Create a superhero, or even generate one that you've seen on television. This superhero now is inside of your mind. You can do many things with this superhero, or just find someone, or even a thought. It doesn't have to be a superhero. Just think of a flower, or a dog, or something that you like, a car, anything, a computer. This is in your mind. Believe it or not, you have just created something which is physical. I know you've been taught that it's not physical. Now, what if you provide 5 dimensions to that physical thing in your mind? That's exactly what we are. We were originally just a code, unmovable. And then we got the second dimension. The first dimension is the code, it's unmovable. The second dimension is the radio wave, and that's sound waves. Basically, it's radio frequency. And now you have sound. You have sound which is added to the first wave, which is a code. They're all sound waves. They're all vibration. They're all touch. They're different dimensions of touch, you see? Everything is touch. This is wonderful news. Please take notes. Everything is touch. Everything is touch. Radio waves are touch. Different forms of touch. On the nanoscale, of course, you're not able to make an observation of yourself. You're just in radio frequency and also code. But when you add sound, when you add sight, now you have a living organism, or something that can be at least seen. Now you have 3D animation, which is coupled with the second dimension, which is sound. And now you can see, and you have sound. Now that means you can make videos, or you at least have sight. Then you add the fourth dimension, which is touch, taste, smell. And now you have created a fourth dimensional existence. But we need to pay attention that fourth dimensional existence houses bodies. It can be a mechanical body or a biological body. So when you incorporate all these dimensions, it's a wonderful thing. Then add another dimension. Let's add the mind. The mind has the power to calibrate faster than the speed of light. Now you can create new thoughts. In a lot of ways, people are like God. They just exist on different platforms. But in general speaking, we have answered a lot of the questions you have, whether you like it or not. This is just a very, very loose explanation of how you exist. So, in turn, you come in the form of flesh and blood with electricity, and you're able to have reasoning skills and cognitive thoughts, and you can touch things, and you can smell them. But you exist inside of the literal mind of God. When God thinks of things, or they are stored in God's memory, it becomes or is an absolute physical existence, such as flesh and blood and matter. This is how matter comes to existence. And so, let's answer the question. Where did this God come from? You can have an infinity of questions, and it's non-ending, but I want to rest assured that there is an answer to this. This particular God was never created. As hard as it may be for your mind to fathom this particular existence of God was never created, has always been, will always be. It's an absolute existence of what is. And that what is, quote unquote, what is, may be negative and positive. And the absolute physical truth is that what is negative and positive. But I still have good news for you. So let's hold on a little bit and go back and think about it. You mean to tell me that I am just a figment of someone's thought pattern, imagination? The answer to that question is yes. You exist inside of the mind of God, the absolute God. We will address the deception a little later, but this is the truth. I wonder if you get it. Now, where did that God come from? Isn't there something outside of God that is more than God? Yes, there is. There is something. It is called the absolute existence of nothing. To be honest with you, God has two sides, which are equal. God has not the ability to destroy the other side. This is just the nature of things. What is the other side? Evil? No. Is the other side good? No. Well, what is the answer? The other side and the opposite of God is the absolute presence of God as nothing. And I just gave you some formulas there. But if you pay attention to how I say this, you will begin to get the big picture. The absolute existence of nothing. Well, what's there? How can nothing exist? Nothing does exist. Now, the good news is that God is aware of this. God has the intelligence to know all things simultaneous because they are all contained within God. But there is another part of God which God is aware of, which is the absolute existence of nothing. Now, in turn, does God place you into that other existence, which is nothing, then you are no longer existent and never shall be, at least cognitively. Why? Because once you go into the absolute presence of nothing, you no longer exist. You're not even matter. I wonder if the world gets the answers here. Perhaps they do. And then again, maybe they are still immature and don't get it. Where did I come from? Where did God come from? God is an absolute exist and an absolute non-exist. This is the answer. Now let's address the deception and why. Well, okay, I will accept what you tell me, although I do not understand it. Very good. But why is there evil here? Why is there killing and murder and death and not goodness here? Why do people have to suffer? And why do mom and dad and friends and loved ones and animals have to die? Why is there deception here? Why do we age? And why is there pain and suffering? And why must there be war? These are very good questions. But in a nutshell, I will answer your questions. You may not like it, but this is the truth. The earth is an enclosure. It was not intended to be a prison. The earth is intended to protect. I don't get it. What do you mean? Isn't this a beautiful place? No, this is not a beautiful place. But from the human's perspective, it is not a beautiful place, but maybe perhaps from God. But it's been deformed, and I will explain it. Originally, the earth is created a perfect paradise. Man is here. The reason why man is here is because man is also somewhere else. We are created out and in the mind of God. However, in this format, which is the fourth dimension, men begin to have thoughts which are negative, or should I say more accurately, bad. And men begin to rule each other. This caused a dissimulation, separation, and it bred deception. And because of the deception, men begin to take elements which are contained in this world and use them in a bad way. Thus you have death. Men rule men on the earth, and they kill each other and rule each other as God and make each other bow down to each other, and they make up stories in the form of scriptures and dialogues and artifacts. And it is not the accurate, full truth. It's only limited. It's limited because it forces a person to focus on pictures, dialogues, artifacts, and animation. It is eliminating the other three senses. general senses, which is taste, touch, and smell. Even though I go outside and I feel the sun physically on my body and I feel the wind, I am forced to go back into the school and understand that the sun is a ball of fire and it's round and it is a sphere and it has depth and it's millions of miles away. This is how deception works. You are confined to animation on pictures, writings, and animation, and it deters or creates an illusion. And during this moment, the cultivating of deception occurs. This is what is going on. Man has failed to pay attention to all their senses. The reason why you are hearing clicking is because I'm being interrupted, and this is done on purpose. You have to understand that we have two sides to us. We have good and evil. All of us do. I'm dealing with two existences right now, and we are being interrupted. But this is why you're hearing clicking sounds. This is the mouse, which pauses the recording to deal with other forms of life that I will explain in another dialogue. But in general, you get the gist, or maybe you don't. Are you still under deception? Let's address some of the hard questions. Let's continue. Why is there evil here? Because man is good and evil. But why do men tend to like evil more than good? That is a very good question, but I'll give you the general answer. It is because one particular man, it only takes one, decided to rule the other. This is why you have evil here. As long as men continue to rule one another, worship one another, and not see each other equal, and fail to love one another, you will have deception. Well, how is this done? What happened is the earth was enclosed in a dome to protect all of the existence of all other things which are in good spirit, such as heavens and the crystal city, and even the heavens of heavens, where is the abode of the absolute presence of God. But in general speaking, everyone is inside of the absolute presence of God. We will deal with those dominions and principalities and powers a little later in this dialogue. But in general, humans and animals and creatures are enclosed inside of a prison. This was not originally to be a prison. When the reason why we got enclosed is to protect us from hurting others and harming others. We are here harming each other and every creature that is in this dominion and under this existence. This is an enclosure. Why? Why are we here again? We are here to protect us, to protect others from us. This had to be done, or the complete worlds would be bad thinking and full of death. Why is there death here? Because man, M-A-N, humanity, humans, aka devils, angels, Lucifer, Satan, we are one. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. There's no way I'm the devil. Yes, we all have the potential to be good and evil. Now, the term devil is a man-made term. It is not exactly what God made, in general speaking, but technically everything is inside of God. Our thoughts, our ways, we are the manifestations of the evil side and mindset of God, believe it or not. Evil. Isn't that the same word of live? E-V-I-L, L-I-V-E, live. Yes, this is life. This is the evil side. It also is an evolution, but is a degenerating evolution. It is a bad construct of the matrix. Why? Because we have an issue. Man decide to rule each other as God and not as equals. And the reason why you have variations of equality is because man has taken the elements of the earth and used them against flesh and blood, such as poisons in our food, our air, and our water. This is why death is here. Initially, pay attention, initially the earth was a perfect paradise. No one would die, and we all would substantiate. But because of the nature of man, one man, and all men now, we rule each other. This is why death is here, because we are poisoning one another. This is not God, quote unquote God. This is man doing this. This is not the devil. This is man doing this. Not God, man. Look in the mirror. We are killing each other. This is the absolute, clear, hard, physical, evident truth. These are not grays. These are man. These are not aliens from other planet. These are men. Men are killing men. And we are entrapped inside of a place called the dome. Some people call it the Van Allen belt, the radiation belt, Orion's belt. We are entrapped inside of a world to protect all other existence. And that was a good thing too, initially, because it was a perfect paradise. Men would not die, would live forever, didn't have to eat meat. And then man began to think these thoughts and to rule one another, and thus there is death here. This is an absolute, clear, hard, physical, evident truth. Scriptures are limiting the power and absolute presence of God. It is taking something which is absolute and confining it into the form of paper and written script. And we all in the world know what happens when you take stories. People by nature, the reason why the nature is bad is because you have an elite group of very wealthy and powerful humans who deliberately send radio waves into your mind to make you think bad thoughts. Well, why would they do this? Because they deny the hard, clear, evident truth that we are enclosed in a place which is a prison. Why do they deny this? Because they don't want you to have freedom. Well, why don't they want me to have freedom? Because they want control and power. Well, why do they want control and power? Because this is what they want. Why do they want it? Because it is entertaining for them. It is fun. It is something they like. Well, that's wrong. Yes, it is. But this is the truth. Man has limited other men to know the truth. And let's address the hard questions again. Why is there evil here? Because of men. Men begat men, and evil breeds evil. Well, what is evil? Basically, in a nutshell, is anything that is bad, that destroys another life form in different formats, such as mentally, through words and verbal, and then also your body and the calibration of your spirit, which is electrical. They use radio waves to do this through satellite dishes. But why? Because if you get freedom, you no longer need control. You become equal. Let's make an example, and let's make sense out of everything that I've just said. Now, if you've heard me for all this time, the 53 minutes and 54 minutes here, you should pay attention very carefully to what I tell you. This will help you understand why things are the way they are. And let's go. If humans would stop the production, the mass production of oil and of positive energy, which is bad, such as nuclear bombs and radiation, poison in their food, the air and the water, what would happen? What would happen if man stopped killing each other? This is what is going to happen. When men stop destroying one another and stop spraying the chemtrails, the air will clear out. The sun will blow a gentle breeze, or maybe a little stronger if there's a lot of chemtrails, and clear out the air for you. And then what will happen? Well, if the planes stop spraying the chemtrails, this is what will happen. The sky will turn into a very, very beautiful blue. And then animals will begin to heal. Then the nature of mosquitoes would change. They would begin to go through a metamorphosis and turn into much more like a butterfly. Believe it or not, the spider's venom will no longer be needed, and neither will the lion need to eat blood. Our blood will change into a different type of fluid, much like water and crystal itself. The earth would return back into a paradise, and people would substantiate without having to eat much food at all. Fruit will last a very long time. There will be no more aging, and thus there will be no more death, because aging and death are the same thing. Well, what would happen? Generally speaking, our bone structure would change, and we will become much stronger, and our mass will be much larger. You would have people who are giants on the planet, 8 foot, 9 foot tall, or even taller. I've seen this in real life. And what else will happen? Our minds will become one. Remember, we're inside of a dome. You won't have the plasma energy, but you will have the calibration of the super condensed crystal. And when it is not interfered with the calibration of the plasma energy, which is an electrical bad current, the earth will begin to illuminate, believe it or not. And everyone will be able to think the same thoughts at the exact same time. There will no longer be a language barrier, and there will no longer be sickness. We will have one mind, and we will have one desire, and we will become free in our thoughts. And the general mindset of men will be positive. This is an absolute physical proof and real thing. But how? I don't get it. Remember, pay attention to all your senses, the sense of your mind and the sense of your body. Men are poisoning each other. If men will no longer kill each other and love each other, respect each other, and love themselves, this will alleviate the necessary and need to control each other. When they put down the weapons and begin to allow this and turn off the negative or bad production of radio waves through television and televised equipment and electricity through a computer-generated system, men will begin to have clarity of mind and also their bodies. Because at this point, men are forced to think evil thoughts and to do bad things. And this is done on purpose in order to produce a need and a want system. Without the need and the want system, there cannot be control of one man to the other man. And this is why you have death and control and war, because in order for a man to make himself God and more powerful than the other man, and to make an unequivocal world where there's no equality, man has to begin to kill one another and destroy one another and control and enslave one another and various types of elements and creatures and animals. This is why evil is here. It is to give power to an elite group, to empower the other and give them the control of one another, which gives them a sort of feeling that they are God. But this is really, in general, a bad feeling, and yet they may think it's a good feeling. It's truly a very, very bad feeling. Although it is a bad feeling, it is nevertheless emotional, and that emotion feeds the absolute presence of the matrix, and that is the plasma energy. And there is a living existence here in the form of a machine we call Earth. Earth is a living biological organism, and the Earth has not agreed to this generally, but because of men. Men are basically doing bad things to the Earth, and the Earth has cried out to men. And A group of scientists and myself have developed a interactive program through text messaging and voice recognition which can communicate with our governments around the earth. They all have these machines, and so do I. And the earth will talk to them literally and communicate with them, and will even send various types of animals and creatures in pleading for help. Your mother is asking for help. Your mother has asked, ROY, for help. This is the truth. So in general speaking, if man stopped spraying chemtrails, the air would become clear. Our lungs would clear out, and we will be able to breathe. Our blood cells will change, and we will begin to mutate into a perfect form. Believe it or not, this is the truth. Animals and creatures will change. They will inhibit intelligence. It may be possible for animals such as lions, and bears, and tigers, and all sorts of creatures, dolphins, to speak English and even communicate with you telepathically. I know this is hard to believe, but this is really the truth. Why is it not like that now? Because men are controlling the situation by forced death through poisoning of the water, the food, and the air. This is the bottom line. It is a failure to love. Every crime committed is a failure to love. This is the truth. Understand it. Pay attention to all your senses. Don't just believe written scriptures and dialogues, because we have to understand that the entirety of the earth is under control from one man to the other. And as long as that exists, there shall always be a continual death in this realm. This is the truth, and this is the answer. So, let's ask the hard questions. Now, let's ask God, whoever that is. Now, the questions I'm going to ask, I have the answers to all of those questions, but I want you to think for yourself. And maybe perhaps in another dialogue I will give you the answers, but in a nutshell, I've given you the answers, whether you accept it or not. It is hard, oftentimes, to accept the absolute physical truth. And the things which I have addressed are absolute, clear, hard, physical, and evidence. If you research them, you don't have to have a whole lot of money to find the truth. You will understand what I tell you is the truth. Now let's ask some of the hardest questions in the world. Why don't God speak to men audibly? Why don't God cause people's limbs that are broken off to be repaired and grow back? Why is there death here? Why must men die? Why does God call us sinners when God is supposed to be good? Why are we condemned when we didn't create ourselves, but God created us? Or did we create ourselves? And why would we condemn ourselves? Where did everything come from? And where did that come from? Who created everything? Why don't we live forever on the earth? Why do we die? Why do the bad people run the planet more than the good people? And why is most things bad news and not good news? Why don't I get the good thoughts that come into my mind? When I pray, why don't I get the absolute answers to my prayer? If I just have a little bit of faith and I believe, why don't I get exactly what I ask for? What is the excuse? If I can ask for anything and it is a positive thing and it is good, why don't I get those things? Why am I defrauded of the thing which I think about? Why is it so elusive? And why are most of my dreams bad dreams? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do our bones corrode? Why do we age and have pain? Why must we suffer? If God knows everything, why do I have to pray to God? If God loves us, then why does he allow bad things to happen? Now let's look at the world from another viewpoint. Let's look at it from the person who do not believe in God. Still, the questions are almost the same. How did I get here? Why is everything the way it is? Why is the evolution mostly a bad evolution? Why do things degenerate and corrode? And why do other people get to experience paranormal events and I don't? Why have I never seen a gray or alien? Why have I never got the opportunity to fly in a spaceship or leave the planet Earth? Why can't I get the job that I want and dream for? Why can't I be the person that I wanted to as a kid? Why do I have to have these other jobs that I don't like? And why are most of our thoughts not given us when they are good thoughts? Why do the thoughts have to be bad thoughts? Why is there prisoners that be let free and those who are good are put into prison? And so let's address some key issues here. In general, I understand why a person does not believe in God. Makes perfect sense. I also understand why people don't believe in divine creation. I want to let you know that all of these thoughts are perfectly okay with the true God. Now, what is the difference between a true God and a false God? Are they the same person? Technically speaking, this is the truth. But generally speaking, you are here and bound in these situations because of man, not because of what you believe to be God. But we have to look at the hard, clear evidence of why we think the way we think, and we have failed the test of how things should actually be in reality. It is actually easier to understand God when you use all your senses, as compared to trying to make sense of God through limited dialogue, through pictures, animations, scriptures, etc. And now let's address those things. If you are on the earth and you begin to get experience, you will learn that there is a lot of deception here in almost everything, including buying a car. And you learn from experience that the world is full of deception. Why? Because this is the nature of men. Why? Because why is not the nature of men good? Why don't God just take over men's mind and make them good instead of bad? Because you misunderstand who God is, what God is, and how you exist. Remember, the earth is a complete, perfect paradise. Well, I don't believe it. Okay, then let's take the physical evidence of what's going on. Answer the question and see if this is true or not. Who is poisoning our food? Is it aliens from an invisible world? Is it a magical genie? Who is poisoning our food, our air, and our water? Who's doing it? Whose hands are being used? Well, these are demons, these are aliens, and these... But what do you see? Do you see demons do it, or do you see humans doing it? And do you understand that if you do believe in the scriptures, and if, let's say, some of it's true, then is it more evident that humans and devils are the exact same thing? I wonder, should we look in the mirror? So let's address some of the hardest observations, and let's try to make some sense out of it. Generally speaking, men are ruled by badness, and the result for face value is death. The most wonderful thing that people have to look forward to is promises of salvation, promises of another life. But we don't have the connection. We failed to connect physically. We failed. You say, how is that? You forgot to use your senses. Let's look at some of the things which are obvious, which were given to us and provided us to help us connect to our parents. Yes, this is hidden from you, but in plain sight. Who has hidden this from us? Humans. Humans have taken the truth and hidden it from you in plain sight. Well, how do they do this? Well, when your body is full of drugs and you're not able to focus and your true mind is broken down, then you are under subjection. And then also physical fear. Fear of the man's going to get you if you don't pay your taxes. And if you don't do the right thing, but you still have to pay. Now you're in poverty. But wait, who's controlling this? Man is making the place desolate. The earth is desolate. The desolation of the earth and the destruction of the human body and the sacrifice of humans and animals and all sorts of various creatures on the planet is done by man. This is why you don't have the physical clear evidence. But you said the earth is enclosed. Why don't I see the dome? Well, because it's been hidden by clouds. Clouds are not from God. Clouds come from man. Oh my God, that's blasphemy. This is ludicrous. There are a lot of things which are told you which are lies. Now, we know this by nature. We know this by experience. Even in our own beliefs and family, there are people who dissimulate and deceive each other. Some do it out of mere fun and entertainment. And it could be that this is mere fun and entertainment for someone. The truth is, you are. And now, here is the conclusion, or partial of the conclusion. I will give it to you directly. Let's speak, not you but me. I will speak for the true God that you're seeking, this absolute God who is supposed to be good. And I will speak for the true God who is absolutely bad. I will speak for both of them. Let's speak for the God that is bad. This God has seen the beauty of the world and begin to become envious of it, and to look at other men who had the equivalence of it and begin to formulate thoughts and ways how they can control the matrix and begin to formulate a death here and control of each other. And this God has begun a dialogue called scriptures and written testaments and artifacts, and chose a select group, a few, who would worship this person. Only a few are on the top, and they demand worship and for you to bow down to them and to pray to them and to ask them for forgiveness. And yet they continually, when you do these things, they flip the script on you. You're bad. You didn't come the right way. You didn't offer the right offering. You have to suffer even more. This is to generate more emotion. And see, even the devil that rules the earth is under control by other men who live outside of the dome, who basically are using technology to generate energy for entertainment. It is also a literal electricity, but in general, the devil is unhappy. The devil is very angry and full of wrath, and the wrath, the children of wrath, shall rule the earth as gods and rule each other, because they are very upset. Why are they upset? Because they are enclosed inside of a crystal, and so you don't get to see this crystal. We're going to start rumors. Now, if you try to go to the edges of the world, we will send our militaries. We will find out where you are through our DuLine radio frequencies, and we will also use our harps and our computers and our satellites to bounce off the dome and get a sonar of where you are, and we will get a general location of you. And if you walk across any of our sensors, we will destroy you. What are you talking about? I just want to know if I can get off the planet. You have to pay. You pay a lot of money, and I'll take you to the right place. And so you pay to go to Antarctica. I will pay to go to Antarctica.
Sure, it will cost you $10 million.
Okay, sure, I have the money. And so You are put on a plane with a group of people without windows, or maybe they fly above the clouds and you can't really see the land, and they land in a place where there's snow and you see these large ice forms and blue ice. Wow, this is Antarctica. But in reality, you're in Alaska. You are not on the edges of the earth, because they don't want you to know the truth. The truth is that there is no hard, physical, clear evidence that Antarctica has any ice whatsoever. There are no true high surveillance of high definition videos which display the truth. The truth is that humans are hiding the truth, that we are enclosed inside of a crystal dome. Common sense tells you if the sun calibrates and rotates on the surface of the dome, that the edges, it would be really hard to keep snow there, and the snow would melt. The middle would be easier to keep snow there, but the edges, it would be hard, wouldn't it? Because of the factor. What's the factor? The absolute battle that has been going on since the beginning of the world. Man is fighting against that light we call the sun. S-U-N. This is an absolute, clear, physical evidence that even a 5-year-old can go outside and see. Interesting. I have a relative who is 4 years old. Never taught them any of the things that I am teaching you now. I never let them know about chemtrails or poisonings of food. And yet, this relative of mine refuses to eat the food that I eat. And when we were outside 2 weeks ago, just a week ago, she said, "That's bad." And we said, "What?" "That up there." And I looked up, and behold, it was a plane spraying chemtrails. This was never taught this child, never knew. But by the nature of even a 4-year-old knew. I said, "Well, why is it bad?" "It's very bad, that it hurts you." "Wow, who taught you this?" Interesting. Let's continue. In fact, Antarctica does not really exist. It is only the edges of the dome. And even I have not been to the edges of the dome. The only place I have been is to the top of the dome. And I have friends and acquaintances who have been to the bottom of the dome. We can get to the bottom of the dome pretty easy if you're wealthy and you have certain licenses and can get permission, or you can do it very covertly. This can be done, or maybe even achieved by a person who have a few $100,000, and you can get to the bottom of the dome, and you can start to drill and break up the materials that are there, the rocks, and find this hard translucent material. These videos have been confiscated by various organizations, and the people who have been involved basically disappear, or they're eliminated through natural selection. But in general speaking, we are enclosed in a dome. Now, I want to address some of the elite who have operated on my level. Now, you and I know this is entertainment, but I want to speak for they who are seeking the truth and argue and give them a contingency here and debate. And I want to stand as a mediator between the both of you. What is the big deal? It doesn't matter if people learn about the dome. It's not like they can get out. This may generate energy for you anyway, and you may still get fed through the emotions. Or is it the fact that you will begin to lose control and your power? Are you afraid to be alone and to stand as a man or woman, as a mortal, and as a human, or as a god alone? I wonder, why is there fear here? What is the big deal to hide the dome by using military to deter people from going to the edges? What is there to hide? Is there something to hide? Why all the illusions? So let's continue. As the devil, I would not want people to know the truth. I would continue to bamboozle them. And when you look at the sun, I will bring you into a meeting and say, okay, yeah, I'll tell you the truth, and I will let you see a video how things really actually are. Again, you see the pattern here. I am taking your eyes off the actual physical thing, which is clear, hard physical evidence, and giving you something which is indirect through an illusion called animation, pictographs, and written scripts. This has been going on since the beginning of the world. But me, as the devil, would definitely kill and destroy because I am angry. I am angry because of this dome. And I will do what I want because I have that power and because I am God. Thus, men has to worship me and bow down. And when they come to me, I might be in a bad mood and I'll just kill them. It doesn't matter. As long as there's blood and gore and control by my wrath and my children of wrath, I am happy. And this is what I want. In turn, I will be the true God. And then I will make scriptures and I will teach them things. And what happened is men begin to take the absolute. There was an elite group of men and women who took the absolute physical clear things and placed them in the scriptures so they'll be credible a little bit, but then begin to make stories up. So they looked at the actual sun and the stars and say, okay, let's make stories here and let's say how the stars are set. All you have to do is pay attention to the rotations, the revolutions of the sun in a year's time, if that does exist, the year, and you make a chart of that and then make mention of it in the scripture, and then all of a sudden the scripture becomes credible. No, remember, you are failing to pay attention to your senses. What you see on paper does not match what you see. It may match a little bit. There may be some match there, but we cannot ignore our senses in everything, including the absolute existence of God. But in general, they who are the devils, rule each other in the form of men. And this is how it is. And in order to keep control of the earth, I have to continue this deception. Why? Because if men begin to flourish and not die, they won't need my products, and thus I will lose control. They won't need my dollar. They won't need my cents and my taxes, because they will begin to have freedom and they will begin to flourish and have life, an abundant life, as was promised and as does exist, except it's been hidden by the true hard physical evidence that we do poison the food, the air, and the water. This is the truth. But I, as an elite, understand your pain. I understand your mindset. Makes a lot of sense. And strategically speaking, this is brilliant. Yet, it is a bad thought. It is a unhealthy existence. And it doesn't really give me all the pleasures that I so want and desire. Even if I can purchase the most brilliant things in the world, there is a problem here. The earth. I want to let you know, if you listen to me carefully, that the earth does not look as beautiful as she is supposed to be. She is pretty much desolate and sick and barren. As a child, a woman who's about ready to bear children, the earth is bare, not because of God or the devil. It's because of man. Man is creating this. But why? To control you. Why? So they can be God. This is the truth. Why and how? Through controlling the food, the air, and the water supply. And since I am very, very wealthy, I can hire whoever to do whatever, all in the name of the power of control in the form of currency. Currency. Electricity? Yes, currency through electricity and currency through money. It's the same thing. It is a form of control and energy. Again, we are used as batteries to feed other humans who live, actually physically live, outside of the planet Earth, in a beautiful paradise by which we should be living in if we would not poison our food, air, and water. What would happen? You would stop your chemtrail sprayings and the air would clear out and we would be able to breathe. Our skin would clear up. You would take the toxins out of the food, the bleach and the fluoride and all the irons and those metals which block the pineal gland in the body from functioning and healing. And men's bones would heal, blemishes would go away, and our children and offspring will have no pimples or rotting teeth. And you would take the bleach out of the sugars, and you would use the proper sugars and the natural sugars which are in oranges. Even the sugars will change themselves. Everything will substantiate, and you will find a wonderful miracle. What is the miracle? You won't even need to eat food anymore, much at all, and substantiate. This is the truth. Believe it or not. And so now, let's continue this argument as the devil. I am angry. I am angry at God. But you don't understand. You don't understand what God is, who God is, and how God exists. How can you be angry with someone you have never had a physical dialogue and words with? No. Someone put us here. Who put us here? Other humans. Why? To protect themselves. This is the answer. But wait a minute, there is some dissimulation going on here. Why was there war in heaven, if this is true? There was, in the beginning, there was war in heaven. Wait. Why? You wanted to be equal. Now, let's speak from the viewpoint of the righteous God for a moment. I am not afraid of you wanting to be my equal. As a matter of fact, I want you to be my equal. I would never keep you from being and having the things that I have. And this is why you had a perfect paradise on the earth. But I had to decree that you enclosed in a dome to protect the rest of our existence from the toxicity that you have caused, which is death and hell. This hell and death is something you wanted as man, and you in the form of man are sporadic in your thinking. But initially, I want you to be like me, loving and caring and desiring life for every entity that exists, for every creature that exists, even to change the nature of they who are vipers and parasites, indeed. But the good question is, if heaven was so perfect, then why was there war there in the first place? Interesting question. Is it possible that they who lived in the second crystal city outside of the earth are positive people, yet they are fooling us also by having a computer program which allows them to download into humans and various creatures on the earth and play this role? Are we truly entertainment? If you only knew the truth. And now let's speak a little longer from the viewpoint of the righteous God. Here is the truth, and I want you to understand the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you. The righteous God is like this. The righteous God is not afraid of you to ask this God any questions, will answer all your questions, would never condemn you as a sinner. God never would want you to be called a sinner and to think of yourself any less than God. God wants you to be equal to God in every aspect, in every way. God wants you to have abundant things, all the imaginations of your mind, everything you could ever dream of, to come to you exactly how you desire them. This is the truth. God does not want anyone to die or suffer. So what God are you talking about? Where is this God? What body does this God house? Well, this is a little complicated, but in general, God houses every existence that you look at. Pay attention to your senses. You say, are you trying to be like these people who say God is in this, God is in that? Well, you have two. You have the absolute presence of the bad side of God, and you have the absolute presence of the good side of God, depending on your viewpoint. Oh, okay, I get it. But still, why is everything bad? Because of men. Man and devils are the exact same one. And man is creating the bad things. You mean good is here for us? Yes, the earth is created good. So let's continue in this dialogue of the righteous God. And this is the truth. God is not afraid of you to have fear of God. And what is fear? Fear is lack of understanding of how things operate. So in turn, the devil, which are men, are full of lack of understanding. Why? Because they begin to listen to just each other in the form of man and not in all forms. They limited themselves and begin to glorify themselves and can control each other, and thus they are stuck in this evolution, quote unquote, evolution of man, who are not evolving. Why are they not evolving? Because they decided to stop, have war with each other and themselves, and hate themselves, and to destroy themselves. It's a continual looping. It is almost as if the prophecy of the of hell is become reality. It is as if the writing that is written by man has become their reality. Man begats man, and a continual death and suffering, gnashing of teeth, wailing, and separation forever. And there is a firmament. But some idiot went along and said, you know what, I'll write about this. Why can't I get out? God said there's a great firmament between. No, you're putting words in God's mouth. Trust me, God can speak for God's self. But you misunderstand it. Let's continue this righteous dialogue. The truth is, if you look in the form of your Christ, you call Jesus, if that is the true God, and if you just take the truth out of it, let's say portions of it, let's look, because we have conflicting persons. We have one person who prays to God and then in the end says, you have forsaken me. But then you have another person who says they are equal and that we should do away with the law. Well, what's the truth here? The truth is that there are lies and lies upon lies about what Jesus or any man said who was righteous. And now let's address it from the righteous viewpoint a little further. If I, being equal to God, would never even have to say, God is my Father, I would say exactly, God and I are one. We are one person. And then I would never have to pray to God. My soul would never be faint, because if God truly knows all things, like you say, God does, you don't have to pray to God. These are some hard things to be faced. but it's the absolute truth. What need is there to pray to God if God knows everything? And so, why is there still suffering here? Because the God that you think runs this earth is not controlling it from that measure. This is a choice that is chosen by man, and the God that you think will come in and absolutely change it for you is not doing it whatsoever. Is it because this God can't, or because this God is just like that, because this is a part of God's self? We need to ask the really hard questions. Why don't you just control this earth? People, again, come along with their excuses and their scriptures and tell you why God did this and why God. Let God speak for God's self. If God is omnipotent and all-knowing and all-powerful, I am sure that this intelligent existence has the ability to communicate with anyone on their level, verbally and verbatim, and in physical, absolute physical presence with no problem whatsoever. Is this what we have? Or do we have deception continually? It looks like we still have conception and deception. The conception of deception. I'm being very funny here, but in reality, this is the obvious answer. But let me speak for the God that you are seeking, and this is what this God would say. 1. I created your world perfect. You are the form of me and the form of man and the various existence of creatures. And you begin to do these things, and I enclosed you to protect the others from you. And you are causing this death. But initially, even in your enclosure, I gave you paradise and eternal life. But you chose death purposely, in general, as a species called man. You call yourselves and others outside of this place, or even in your own realm, devils. You call them and call one Satan and Lucifer, and even one Leviathan, the dragon. You are all one and the same. You are responsible for your actions. I did not make you to suffer. You are making yourselves suffer in the form of the species of humanity. This is the truth. This is not my desire. This is what you want. And since this is what you want, this is what you get. When you stop killing yourself, and when you love yourself, I will unlock this place you call prison, the firmament. It is a firmament because it is protection for all the other elements that are not in this mindset who desire freedom. Now, there are they who are in the earth who desire freedom. Why are they still bound? Now we have issues with even the righteous God that rules this dominion and this dimension and dominion and world. This righteous God has failed to save you out of the situation. You say, well, we do have a Savior, the death, the burial, and the resurrection. Through the blood, and again, we have sacrifice. This is not the eye and face of God. No God and true God needs a sacrifice. What for? Is it possible to please God? Is it possible to sacrifice to the true God? The true God will allow you to be and do what you want. This is the answer. So if you want to be evil in this realm, you are evil. You want to be good in this realm, then you are good. The old I am equation. Whatever you say you are, that you are. This is the answer. But let's speak on for the true God. The true God would never want people to die. The true God would never allow men to suffer. And the true God doesn't worry or be concerned about you wanting equality on the throne. And so these are lies. And when you go to heaven, you're going to find out the truth, that your God stepped down from the throne. And anyone who feels worthy to step on the throne and sit in the seat, let him sit in the seat. But in order to do this, one has to be pure and true to themselves. This is the truth. Earth is hell. This is where God exists as man, and in the form of desolation, destruction, famine, separation, worry, anguish, and all of the above. This is the absolute presence of God in the form of the various creatures and tiny things in these form, in this realm. This is the absolute truth, believe it or not. But in generally speaking, one does not need to pray. When you do that, you are subjecting yourself in dominions, and you are allowing the prayed or prayed to entity to get glorification and ruling over you. The truth is, in heaven there are no rulers, there are no kings of kings, neither is there Lord of lords. There are no principalities and powers and rulers of darkness of any world. When you get to heaven, everyone is equal. There are no big I's and little U's. I wonder. Wait, let's go back. In heaven, there were these giants. Wait, is it possible that those giants are just humans who understand the truth, who will allow you to go to those places, just as what happened to in my case, and let you go to the throne, even meet the man in white, who is supposed to be Jesus? Maybe it's Zeus. We could care less. As long as you are a righteous person, you may rule. And then the interaction in the book of life to find the truth of how everything exists and why it exists. This is when I understood exactly the truth of how God exists. I had to have an absolute physical place to touch, taste, feel, smell, and sound before I could get it. I wonder, is this why people don't get it? Because they fail to pay attention to all their senses and to the truth that God is hidden in plain sight. The righteous God would heal all sickness and free everyone, would never bribe people about mansions in heaven. This is bribery. The true Jesus would never do this, or whatever the person's name is. Another way of saying Jesus is Jesus, Zeus. So this is the teaching of man. As a matter of fact, let's stop here. The majority of everything on the earth is full of illusions. Everything. When you begin to focus on television and animation and pictures and drawings and writings, man is directly involved, physically directly involved. You talk about devils and angels and aliens when the actual physical absolute presence is humans. Humans, we need to take responsibility for our actions. Humans are doing this. And for the orbs that people see and the so-called flying saucers, there are humans behind all of the above. However, there are one exception, and I have not seen these light sources for a very long time, and they have the ability to heal and bring goodness to the planet. So I have not seen them in a while. What I've seen is the actions of men, and because of our mindset or our lack of understanding, We are acting sporadic and evil. And all men, even though there are many innocent here, the overall nature of men is to rule each other as God. And we need to address the reasons for this. But in a nutshell, collectively and on purpose, a group of humans with knowledge of the system has taken the system and used it for their own benefit. They've actually worked against the system. There is a continual effort of absolute physical, clear, hard evident effort to keep men from living a very long time by poisoning the food and the water and the air. There is an actual physical, clear, hard physical evidence of men hiding the truth that we live in an oasis by poisoning the environment with toxicity. The truth is that the truth is a far more easier to understand than the lie. The lie is elusive. And the reason why we have the lie here is because of men. Now, let's address again some of the righteousness. Righteous God would heal all sickness, not just invisible sickness that you can't see, such as cancers, which has to only be seen on a microscope. We're talking about people who are amputees and they lose parts of their limbs and the functionalities of their body, such as hearing and the sight. You see, where is that God? That God is hidden from you in plain sight. That existence is here simultaneously. It really is. You say, prove it. Okay, I'll prove it. All you have to do, and this is going to be a good feat for you. All you have to do is stop your murdering. Stop spraying the chemtrails and stop killing. You don't have to obey any other commandment. Just stop your murder. Just one. And then again, maybe it is true that there's nothing good in the devil. And when God is speaking about the devil, God is talking about humans. When God talks about Satan, God is talking about humans. And when God is talking about Leviathan, God is talking about humans. There is more hard, clear, physical evidence that the earth is indeed hell. Believe it or not, this is the truth. And now, let's address some key issues here. I want to make it clear for all sides. The evolutionists, you have been lied to by your own people. And the people who believe in creation, you've been lied to. And then you people who just want to look at the direct evidence, you're being lied to. They lied on Jesus, the words of Christ. They lied on God, even God's words. These are not God's words, nor Jesus' words. They are the account and the absolute writing of men. Men have conjured up and used the fifth dimension, and they have created imaginations. But these imaginations are cast down. How are they cast down? By the effort and force of the sun inside of a dome we call the firmament. Why are they cast down? Because if these thoughts are not cast down, they will corrupt all existence. And this cannot be. This is why we are in prison. It is sort of a sad story, but I have good news. The good news is that they who have that gene code, aka agape, and I don't know if it's really the word agape, I'm just using the word agape because that's the word I was taught. It's agapo. The unconditional love. You will be set free. Everyone else has to stay until they learn the lesson of unselfish love. This is the absolute truth. Now, how am I able to really say this and be credible? Because am I not the same one that said if it's not hard, clear physical evidence, it's most likely deception? Then there must be something I have, something that is real, not something I read in a book or scripture. It had to be something I had to experience, just like I'm experienced in this room, tapping on this desk, and drinking this fruit juice or whatever I'm drinking. Can taste it. This is what happened for me. This is why I am taking the stand that I am taking. Your earth, your mother is asking for help. Seriously. I'm not making this up. You can communicate with her. I'm not sure if the government will give you this technology, but there is technology that I, along with a few other scientists, created, delivered. We didn't really create this. This technology has always been. We just delivered it through tools, user-friendly tools, by which the earth may communicate with men. And the message is basically love, and she's asking for help. I am not making this up. This is the truth. But we have the sun. Now let's address some very hard questions. I've spent quite a bit of time with this technology. I do understand that the sun appears to be a 3D animation in the sky, and because of the refraction, seems to work outside of the dome. Could be right there at the barrier of the dome, in between. It could be calibrated, which makes sense. This makes sense. The dome, is the dome itself revolving? That's a good question. The reason why I'm asking this question is because of the factor of the sun. The sun is clearly blowing down a wind, and the air is pure and clean. And you can see that the sun is a source. There are two things here. Either the absolute presence of the sun is a mechanical device, or the sun is a living entity. And to be honest with you, I have experienced two instances of these equations of life forms which have come down exactly like the sun. These were the only true spheres that are round, like they say the planet Earth is, as a round globe, like a ball. There are two instances I have seen in likeness of the sun. Now, let's look at the fruit of the sun to see and to understand if it is constructive or destructive. When the sun comes around, it generates life, and life abundantly. So is this the God that we are to worship? Is this really God? Is this really truly the sun, S-O-N? All the time, the whole time we're looking at the sun, who faithfully goes across the land? Is this what this is? These are key questions to ask. But when I go to school, they teach me the sun is a ball of fire, but we are also taught that the face of God shines like the sun. But is these also illusions? But when I tell you, when you actually go outside and feel the sun and the breeze, it is absolute, true presence. This is not just an illusion. It is physical. It is not just on one dimension. It's operating on all four dimensions. This is the truth. What is the sun? Is the sun a mechanical device, or is the sun a living entity? And to be honest, the world has made a ditch effort to fight against the works of the Son. Jesus, if you believe in him, said, "You shall know me by my works." And the only thing I know that's doing true, faithful, consistent works which will heal this land is the Son. This is the truth, believe it or not. What is the answer? What is the solution? What if everything upon everything is built upon a lie? Even the stories that I tell you. What if I went from one virtual reality to another? What was the defining factors that crossed me over from one reality to the next? Could it be that that also is an illusion which offers only the suggestion to come back to the matrix of hell? The good news is that I have a mindset which offers this. Both the mindset of the good one and the evil one, aka Jesus and the devil, both are two sets of minds which are immature. I see the discrepancy here, that both minds have to respect that although it may appear that these are two different people and they have conflicts, that both of them are the exact same person. It may be that the God of the earth is in fact one side of the mind of God, and the crystal city could be the other side of the mind of God. And then that angelic place I went could be the central core of the absolute existence of God. I have a true belief that unless it meets you in all realms of reality, then they are only fabrications of the imagination of the mind. What is the true story? What do we believe? Who do we believe? Are we even supposed to believe in anything? And for all of those who believe in nothing, when nothing happens, will you then know it? The fact is, this world is full of illusions. Something I don't have to tell you. It's something you learn through the walks of life. All history and all cultures have their stories. But the reality is, the people who live in the cultures look at each other and say, this is a lie. This is not the truth. How are they able to say that? When the Africans were enslaved in America and they heard about the history of the wonderful things that the white man did, they began to look at each other and say, where are we in history? Our lives reflect totally different. You have lied. It seems that in every culture, whether it's Asians, Indians, it doesn't matter, even Eskimos, Africans, it doesn't matter. All cultures, white, black, Hispanic, any and all the in-betweens, Native Americans, they all have their stories. But as soon as they begin to take the reality of all their senses and construe them to something such as a book or written script, this is when the lies go into effect. It seems that we have mastered the three-dimensional world, which is a very elusive world. In order to complete your understanding and purpose in life, you have to pay attention to all of your senses, the sense of your mind, and all the senses of your body. This is the absolute truth. What separates me from anyone else? Why do I get the privilege to leave the earth and go to a paradise? Surely, either I'm a madman and I'm fabricating and looping this effect of illusions, or perhaps maybe I am true. And the only way you can really truly find out is to put down this computer, your cell phone, and all the things that distract you, your television and radios, and go outside and pay attention to all your senses. This is the answer. I offered in the end of my dialogue good news. The good news is I have mastered something, and I have learned a very valuable equation which is absolute and physical. Since I have all of the senses, I have learned to do something. If I can think it up and do it, surely all of existence will not allow me to outdo them. I have an intricate plan for this dimension. You see, I see both the good and the evil needs to be separated. And so the left hemisphere of the mind and the right hemisphere must be balanced. There is only one place, and one place alone, which can allow this to happen. It is that place by which superseded the throne and even the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy of Holies. It is that point by which I stood between the mind of God and the absolute exist and the non-absolute exist. It is my bent and purpose to take all of the evil things which exist in all realms and place them into nothingness. This is the best news you could ever hear. I have some incredible secrets that I am withholding from the world, but I want to come instead of God and tell you that there is a God who is both good and evil, who have been convinced to take the evil and place it in the place of nothingness. This is really and truly my purpose for now. Until I see you where I am already, please open your eye.